What's up, peeps? Welcome in. It's another episode of the Eben podcast. Really stoked to share this convo with you. It's with my dear friend, Jason Pickard. You've all had the opportunity to meet his brother, Jared, founder of Be Here Farm and Nature. Jason is an absolute wizard. After years of mega success on Wall Street, he's transitioned his life to being a true student and thereby master of wellness, a deeply spiritually practiced human being. This episode is chock full of wisdom from a guy who had massive success in the material realm and found his way, transitioned his life in a completely new direction. I think you guys will really love it and get a whole lot out of it. This episode is always brought to you by our family over at Strong Coffee. Got the Caffeine Cowboys Kings of Coffee hat on here. Strong Coffee, you know what it is. One of my favorite products on the planet. You've got adaptogens, good fats, collagen. These are amazing instant coffee and lattes. Highly recommend it. Use code EBFLOW at checkout. Get yourself 20% off. Then Sun Potion. Shout out to my brother Scott Lind, founder of Sun Potion. Some of the most potent and efficacious, that means highly efficient, adaptogenic products on the planet. Everything from pine pollen, ashwagandha. These are massive testosterone boosters, men, for all you guys out there. He's also got the yin power and everything that the ladies need. Check it out. Use code EBENFLOW20. Get yourself 20% off there. Heal and Flow. Heal and Flow in Wimberley, Texas, March 23 and 24. Cannot wait, guys. Yes, we're doing yoga, we're doing breath work, we're doing the ice tubs, it's going to be amazing food, all of that good stuff. But Heal and Flow, this is a transformative experience. You literally change your life. You step through the portal of Heal and Flow. One person, you come out the other side, a new, recharged, higher functioning version of yourself. Can't wait to see you guys there. Hit the link in the show notes. If you're interested, you can register immediately. We've only got a limited number of spots left. Also, men, following Heal and Flow, March 31, doing another Wild King 6-week men's workshop. This is 6 weeks to tap in, get clear, and step into your masculine power. Be the king you were destined to be. Going to be awesome. I'm super stoked about it. This is the work of my life, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. So enjoy this episode, and I'll see y'all on the flip side. Peace.
You have unlocked the eternal link to internal source, the key of imagination, your admission. Access to the enlightened dimension. A gateway at the junction of darkness and light. The place at which the chaos of our conditioned frame of mind give way to a life in constant flux, only to be mastered through vigilant discipline. Peaceful times may come, testing times may go. This is the Ebb and Flow.
Jason.
Eb.
Man, I'm stoked for this, bro.
This is so cool. I'm so glad to be here.
Super fun. Me too, man. I've had an ear infection in my right ear. Jason just did he did one biogeometry technique. I've got that taped to my chest. And then we did some acupuncture tacks in my ear. And you use your little instrument, feel where the friction was, and then place them in those spots. Definitely Like I was telling you when you put them in, there was a little release in there. And just to start with that, I thought it'd be interesting. So this ear infection popped up this weekend, and it came after this phone call I had. I get ear infections, like doing hot yoga, get sweat in my ear, get mild ear infection. And interestingly, my mom was just saying that I've gotten ear infections since I was a kid. The ear, it's all about ear infection in particular is about not wanting to hear something or your body shutting down. And it actually, in Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, she talks about parental arguing.
Right.
And this was my experience of that. And so as a little kid who, dealt with a tumultuous parental environment, there was a lot of fighting.
Yeah, not wanting to hear that.
Not wanting to hear that.
Understandable.
And last night, I took in all that information about the hearing and the listening and what this ear infection came on the heels of. And I was thinking to myself, I was playing a game of, and it's been fucking painful, dude. Like, this has been one of the worst I've had. Some of the worst pain I've experienced in a long time, actually.
That's saying a lot for you, too. You've been through a lot of pain.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it last night, and I was just playing this game of, my body, as this super intelligent organism, took it upon itself to shut down my right ear because what was coming in was so poisonous and toxic that it said, no more, we're locking it down. We're not taking that in anymore.
Yeah.
And playing that game, all of a sudden I felt this gratitude and this peace about my ear and going, oh, thank you, body, for doing what I've been struggling to do almost my whole life, which is not hear, take in the words of people outside of me. And I'm going through this whole trip of releasing myself from this need, this codependency on external harmony and creating inner harmony and letting the harmony of my life be a reflection of my inner harmony rather than trying to move and navigate and coerce my outside surroundings into being harmonious.
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
So that's where I'm at today. I texted you last night. Hey, brother, just curious if we could move the date. I didn't really want to because I've been excited to have this convo.
Yeah.
And you said we could. Tomorrow would be best for me. I totally get it. Ear infection, not fun. If we had to, you let me know. And this morning I woke up feeling a lot better. Can't really hear out of my right ear right now. But my energy is definitely better, and I'm stoked to be here with you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for making it work.
Yeah, dude. Thank you.
I think what you're hitting on is a really interesting thing because we have this consensus reality level. Okay, we have on consensus reality, this agreed upon more physical level, we have an ear infection.
Uh-huh.
But what lies underneath that level is the level of dreaming. And so when we have something challenging in our life, like a body symptom or something disturbing or a conflict, even like a synchronicity or a coincidence, we can look at them and saying, what's the message in it for me? If I could look through my ear back at me, what would I tell myself? Where am I closed off? Where do I need to be more open? And where do I need to be more closed down, like you said? And in that way, we turn these body symptoms that often we feel the victim of to be our ally. And I actually find this even in the investing world to be quite phenomenal because when I was on Wall Street, a lot of people were constantly taking painkillers and Advil and Tylenol and all sorts of Tums and things to medicate the symptoms.
Right.
But if I'm there and I'm going to go make a trade, and all of a sudden I feel a headache, or I feel some nausea, or I feel a knot in my stomach, instead of masking that, what if I leaned into it and said, what if there's some information there? What if this investment I'm going to make is going to give me a headache, or it's going to turn my stomach into knots? If I feel bloated, maybe I can ask, is my portfolio a little bloated? Or where is it underweight or overweight? And start to use the intelligence of our body as a dreaming signal to awaken us to our greatest potential. And that way, these symptoms become little messages that we're not listening to. And when we lean into them and when we explore them with great curiosity, we can start to understand the meaning behind them, and then they no longer need to be there. Think about if you had like a song stuck in your head. Many of us hear these songs all the time, and we're like, what the fuck? You know, I just want to get this thing. Why do I have this song in my head?
Yeah.
But what if it was there as a messenger? What if you listened to the lyrics, the quality, the energy, the rhythm, the essence of that song, and asked yourself, what was it about that song that you need to hear today to support your life, your work, or your relationships? And then when you actually understand that, if you move that through your body, if you are curious about it, it no longer needs to be stuck in your head because it delivered the message. And this also works for the inner critic, which is a big thing in athletics and performance of all kinds. We have these voices in our head that are telling us, oh, you're not good enough, you shouldn't do that. And most of the time we just kind of like try to repress them, push it away. But what if you actually started talking to it? Hey, what's going on? What do you have to say? Well, I don't agree with that. Or, you know, oh, I see your point of view. And you start to facilitate these voices and these experiences. And you open up to this entire dream level, which is really, really, to me, rich, because all of a sudden these events in your life that seem random and meaningless become purposeful, they're acting as agents for your greatness and your fullest potential.
Bro, this is what I'm talking about, dude.
Let's go.
Let's go, dude. No, that's such a powerful shift when you change your relationship, or you shift your relationship out of being a victim of the circumstances, the injury, the disease, the inner critic, all of that stuff. You shift your relationship from that into investigative, into what's here for me. You know, what message is coming to me? My body has always been this instrument of messages, this instrument of what's going on here. For instance, after my going into my second year in the NFL, I ruptured a disc in my back, L5S1.
Yeah.
And it was a massive injury. It completely shocked my system. And it was, when I look back, it was totally linked to my psycho-emotional state at the time.
Yeah.
Like, the back is all about support. You're carrying the weight of the world on your back. You're not supporting yourself. You're not living in a way that supports your way of being. All of these things, money, finances, all of that stuff is right there in the low back. And of course, that's what gave out for me. That's what blew out, literally.
Yeah.
And so looking back, and I think about where I was at in my life, my inner life at that time, that was right on point. Of course, my back took that trauma.
Yeah.
You know?
The body is so intelligent.
It's super intelligent.
We look out at the world and we get amazed by artificial intelligence. But the intelligence of the human body, the million trillion reactions that are happening right now, digesting our breakfast, breathing us, pumping our heart. You know, we can remember barely remember a 7-digit phone number.
Yeah.
But our body remembers everything that's ever happened to us.
Totally.
There are phenomenal, unimaginable, inconceivable things that are happening to us right now as we're speaking here that we don't even come close to understanding. It's the real original intelligence. And when you start to use it to guide your life, and, you know, think about the intelligence of the dreaming process. You go to sleep at night, and without doing anything, you dream up all of the repressed material, all of the secondary things that you're not in touch with. And you can wake up in the morning, and while you're literally sleeping, you have a direct message, customized, a perfect algorithm for you through symbols that only you can understand of how you can grow and learn and discover more about yourself. There, you know, in this world of artificial intelligence, we need to get back to the official intelligence, which is listening to the intelligence of our heart, the wisdom of our body, and the profound wisdom of our dreaming process during the day, during the night, and the living dream.
Dude, I love that. I want to talk more about, I want you to break down the dream layer more. Before you do that, though, I want to bring up something that you said that I thought was really profound before we started shooting, was that our bodies are naturally built to be in the flow of truth.
Yeah.
And we're so far away from that.
Yeah.
In modern culture, we've just, because it's not deemed appropriate or accepted to be in that state of truth, inner truth. And how when we're out of alignment in that, all sorts of things arise.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to just, if anything, just re-say that.
Yeah, it's
and hit that point, because I think there's no deeper truth in the functionality of our physical body.
Yeah. Well, you know, this can be proven by muscle testing.
Right.
Is you know, is not just this esoteric concept. You can measure this by going into a lab and holding your arm out and having a weight on top and saying a truthful statement and saying a not truthful statement and seeing how much weight you can hold. And it shows that when you're in truth, the strength of your ligaments and your muscles is stronger. You know, we all know that there's these physiological responses, because if you do a lie detector test, right, and you're lying, it shows a response. It shows maybe your heart rate or your blood pressure or sweating. You know, anyone who's ever played poker knows to look for somebody's tells, right? This is what custom agents and probably police officers and various people are trained to do. And in fact, as a process work facilitator, something that I practice, we look for these signals in our clients. And so anytime there is an incongruency, the body will produce what's called a double signal. So if you ever seen somebody and you see them on the street and you say, "Hey, how you doing?" They're like, "Yeah, I'm good." And they're like shaking their head no, right?
Yeah.
The body will never lie. And so only less than 10% of the available information comes from what we're saying. But what we're feeling, our body posture, the tone of our voice, our energy, the way we stand and hold ourselves, the way our eyes go up or down or close or we sink down, or any of these kind of manifestations are our body's way of saying we're not congruent. And in fact, this is one of the most helpful things in relationships, because you go to your girlfriend and say, "Hey, honey, do you want to go out for dinner tonight?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, let's go." Right? And you're like, "All right, let's go." And the next thing you know, you're sitting at a restaurant and you get into a fight because there's something deeper about it. But when you can be curious about your own signals, when you can notice your own incongruencies or your partners, and this is really important in the business world, because you go to one of your employees and you say, "Hey, can you work on this project?" And they say yes because they're afraid to say no.
Right.
But they give you a double signal. If you can pick up on that, you know that they're not the right person for the job, because they're probably not going to be even doing it well because there's some kind of incongruency.
Right.
So just holding a curiosity and saying, I noticed that you kind of looked down and turned away, or your energy dropped, or your voice inflected or something. Is there more there that you want to say? And then maybe the girlfriend says, look, I'm really tired. I had a long day. I really love to just watch a movie tonight. Why don't we go out tomorrow night?
Exactly.
And I'm like,
boom.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
And now we're in harmony. Right?
Yeah.
And so we can notice this in ourselves.
Yeah.
And we can notice this in other people. And, it's like having your own lie detector test for whether or not you're congruent about a statement. And to answer your earlier question, I believe that this is an evolutionary development, because imagine if we were in a tribe and, somebody ate 30 bananas. That was supposed to be one for everybody. And so I think in terms of survival mechanism, the body has shown that when somebody's not truthful, there needs to be a response that could be picked up on to protect the larger mass.
Bro, so good, man. My mind is exploding with places to go and thoughts on this. And one thing I think is interesting to bring up, I was hanging out with Dave Meltzer. You know Dave?
No.
Massive sports executive, was a big sports agent for a long time. Now he's like an entrepreneur. I mean, he's beyond an entrepreneur,
cool.
Like just an amazing dude. Super tapped in. Like he would love this conversation. And I was teaching at this men's group, this men's retreat last week, and was hanging out with Dave, and he said to me, he'd gotten through my yoga and we were just jamming, and he was sharing some things he's working on, and I was telling him where I'm at, and he said, Eb, I like to think of ourselves as selves. Our cells are all individual selves, and they're all interacting, and each one of these selves creates a basis for consciousness, and then there's the bigger self, and then there's our highest self, and all of them are sort of working hopefully in alignment with one another. And yet when there's incongruencies, that's going to create these chasms in the whole organism, right? Mm-hmm. And then thinking about that from an evolutionary standpoint of, we are all individuals. However, when we're living in a tribe, the tribe is the organism.
Right.
And so same thing if a cell goes cancerous and then there's all these cells around them, like that's going to affect it, and they got to get it under control by various means. You know what I mean? And so if an individual is acting in or out of congruency with the whole organism, that creates rifts and disease and all of that stuff. So it's interesting how naturally, and I see this all the time, this is an image that comes into my mind frequently about consciousness and about society as a whole, but each individual is holding this one place in the greater scheme of the organism. And when one of us is off, it throws off however many else, it throws out those ripples. And so when you're living in this tribal community like we were, and I think there's a big movement back into that, whether it's, living directly on the land or not.
Men's groups that you do.
Yeah, all of these things, these microcosmic immersions of the tribal experience coming back into the fold, which I think is so awesome and necessary. But it's like you said, it's completely perfect and built into the nature of the grand organism of the human race, the humankind, just like in all things in nature, how when there's imbalances, it's going to show, it's going to ripple out, it's going to be completely obvious when you're paying attention to it.
It's so true.
And the other thing I was thinking the other day, I don't know why this came to me, but I was thinking about Sherlock Holmes, and I was thinking about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and how weirdly Sherlock Holmes was this, it feels like it was his opportunity to write a story that showed us how to be the observer of our environment. And just like you're saying, dude, like that's so simple and genius and true when you're in relationships with someone, when you're the boss, when you've got people working with you or for you, being able to look deeper, because that was a big part of my experience in the NFL. I come back from the back injury. First game back, I get a guy thrown into my ankle. I get a low-high ankle sprain. I'm asked to keep playing through it. I can't. I need minimum 6 weeks off to recover. Lucky I didn't need surgery. They bring me back after 3 weeks. I get my fucking ass kicked because I'm playing an all-pro D tackle. Get benched. And here I am being a guy who this was my family, this team, the football team, the coaches are my fathers. Like, this is my fucking family. And all of a sudden I'm benched and I go from being the golden child to being in exile, and nobody there can talk to me about it, you know? And I'm looking at their face going, guys, can you just, what's going on here? And nobody could talk to me about it. Like, nobody, the words that were coming out of their mouth, I could see the choking in their throat.
Yeah.
I could see how they were in this state of conflict, whatever was going on. You know, nobody could say to me, Eb, you're injured. We need to put this guy in for now so that you can get healthy, and give me that opportunity. I'd been starting for the last 4 years, you know, and all of a sudden it's just like, Eb, you're a pariah. You can't be here. We need to start the young guy, which completely isolated me. I was like, fuck all y'all. I'm over this shit. Would show up to the facility stoned out of my mind, you know, at 5 a.m. It was my happy time. I'd load up the vape with cannabis, hit it about 4 or 5 times before driving to the facility, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, nobody else seems to care about me, so I'm just going to do my thing, you know, and completely disconnected myself from the team. Now, going back to just everything you're saying, if we can, as leaders especially, and as partners, as leaders and partners, if we can hone that skill of looking at the double signals and being curious about it, because it's also another layer of not taking things personally, right? It's like not becoming the victim of it. Oh, well, they don't like me, or, oh, fuck them, or we don't think the same, or whatever it is. It's like, no, that person is having an entire experience inside of them that they're not sharing, because we've grown up in a society where you're not really safe to share, because the moment you share, I'm tired, honey, I don't want to go out. Somebody goes, why are you tired? You know, oh, you don't want to go out? Rather than, oh, bet. Let's just chill. Let's chill. You know?
Yeah, there's so many things to say on that. Well, first of all, I just want to say, when you're talking about these tribes, you know, you can consider them organizations. And organizations are made up of organisms,
right,
or organs. We are the organs of the organizations. You know what I mean? They're alive. Yeah. They're totally alive.
Yeah.
And the cells that we have are like cell phones. We're so amused by our cell phones and wireless technology, Wi-Fi, but our cells are producing that same Wi-Fi internally and giving us that same kind of wireless connection to the global consciousness that's available, and to our body's intelligence and all of those things. So we literally have that same kind of quality of intelligence inside of us that we're fascinated on the other side. And this whole thing of double signals and conflict is that ultimately it leads to deeper intimacy. Which is kind of like a paradox, but
no, it's so true, dude.
Ultimately, you know, in one of the in the 4-phase model of conflict work that I study, in the first phase, you have to have like a time when everything's chill, which many people don't even have. In a lot of relationships, they're always fighting. And then you move into phase 2, where there's a conflict. And in this phase, you really stand for your side. I really want to go out to dinner tonight. I really don't want to go out to dinner tonight. You know, this is a simple thing, but you can imagine. And some people have a really hard time standing up for themselves. And some groups, like social activist groups, get really stuck in this phase where they're only seeing their side.
Just in conflict all the time.
But the magic comes in phase 3 when you can start to take the other person's shoes. You look to see from their perspective. Can you pick up 1% of the accusation? Can you see how in some way you're like them? Can you see how in some way you need their energy a little bit in your life, maybe in a different way? And somehow together you're producing some kind of transcendent function of really being curious about the other one's process to learn and deepen, knowing that together you can make something better than the parts. And so, conflict work and double signal work, all of these things.
Wait, so what's the fourth?
The fourth phase is a little bit more advanced, but it's essentially detaching and letting the universe move through you.
Okay.
So maybe you imagine, you go through a process of imagining you're at your favorite spot in nature and sort of shapeshift into the ocean or into the mountains, and then look at the relationship conflict from the perspective of the ocean or the mountains or the desert, and then see how that changes your perspective from phase 2, which needs a little bit more nuancing from somebody who knows how to do it. But even going to phase 3, where you just start to get curious about the other side, that can lead to a lot. And that really is the main problem we have right now with all of the polarities, is that nobody's willing to step into the other person's shoes.
1000%. Something that comes to my mind, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What is the line that any of us can draw in a moment of conflict in our lives where we can discern, or what is the process by which we can discern when there's something to really fight for and when there's a moment to surrender or compromise? Because I think for a lot of men in particular, and I've been in this position, we get to this place where, in a lot of relationships in America, I would say, and I have no idea what the percentage would be, what the ratio of this would be, but there's a lot of relationships between men and women in current times, in the contemporary era, where women have really assumed the masculine role in their lives, and men have unknowingly, perhaps unconsciously, assumed a more feminine position, which essentially manifests in all of the little decisions get thrown to the wife, the woman partner, which leads to all the decisions get thrown to her. You know what I'm saying? Because there's been this thing where men sort of like take this subservient back seat. And it takes a lot of work, actually, in today's culture for a man to understand what it means to hold the masculine pole, hold the masculine end of the spectrum in the relationship in a way that allows the woman to be in her feminine, which she wants to be in. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
And so in relationships in particular, we can fall into this place where it's all just a compromise or it's all just a surrender, and we're rarely just fighting for what we really want.
I think the answer is a yes and. I think that it's important to stand up for your truth, and at the same time recognize that everyone, every voice, every part deserves a seat at the table. Even in the most atrocious groups, there's something there that can be offered for us, an understanding, an energy, a compassion, something. Is that every religion, every part of an organization, that the CEO might have more weight in a vote and a merger and an acquisition than the receptionist, but that receptionist's voice matters. And to the extent that you ignore any one part of yourself or a relationship or an organization, it becomes an inner terrorist and starts working against you. You ever work in a company or something, where all of a sudden there's closed doors meetings and there's gossiping and there's things that are going on behind the doors, and it starts to create a whole shit show.
It's a cancer.
It's a cancer, right?
Yeah.
Because you get inner terrorists. But when you bring everybody in and you say, look, we want to hear from everyone's voice. We might not take the decision, but we recognize that everyone deserves a seat at the table. And that also goes to every part of ourselves, where there's an outward eldering, but then an inner eldering, where we respect our ear. We respect our dreams. We respect our fantasies. We respect our heart, our body, etc. And so I think there is a yes and of, it's very important to stand for your truth. Your individuality is so important, but at the same time recognize that you're still only one part. And even if you're fighting against something that is so wrong, there may still be, even if it's like a homeopathic dose, there may be something to discover in the other side, that you don't have all of the answer. And one simple one that our buddy Paul Chek says is that ask yourself, if everyone on the planet did this, would the world be a better place? If everyone on the planet threw their cigarette butt out the window, would the world be a better place? Right? So, and there are times, you're a warrior. And in ancient culture, warriors were very important, right? But the creed of the warrior was to protect first and harm only when necessary. And the Native American idea of a warrior is to be one not at the effect of anyone in any place at any time, really being who you are. So it's really important to be who you are. But interestingly, in the Native American culture, for a man, the warrior is in the East, and the East is the home of the young girl. They believe that in us, we have 4 orbs or assemblage points or like directions of consciousness that we have. For a man on the north-south axis, we have an elder man and a young boy. And then on the east-west, we have an elder woman and a younger girl. And often what happens is we get stuck in only one face or one shield because maybe we have, men have to be like this or women have to be like this, or we have trauma in one, or our father or our mother steps in and assumes one of those shields. But ultimately there's a fluidity between all of these roles. And back to the East is that this warrior in the Native American culture is the toughness of the warrior with the vulnerability, the courage, spontaneity, and the open-heartedness of a young child, a young girl. Really being who you are and wearing your heart on your sleeve. And so back to relationships, one of the keys is fluidity. Anytime you get stuck in a role or a belief system, it's a death. Getting old is becoming rigid. People who are getting old and who their life are starting to decline, having various diseases, typically it's a rigidity of belief systems. And so when you get into relationships and you start to recognize that there are these roles, okay, I'm the fun parent. You're the disciplinarian. I always initiate sex. You never initiate sex. I always make the plans. You never make the plans. You have to start switching it up. You have to be fluid in all these roles and not get pigeonholed. And that's the key to a successful relationship. And also a successful relationship with your own internal world is being fluid in all the parts of yourself, the masculine, the feminine, the warrior, the healer, the teacher, the parent, all of these things. I love that too. So many of us in relationships, we get stuck in the roles of how they began. So we get into a relationship and I'm the one who makes the money and you're the one who does the housework. And then you get to a point like 8 years in the road where someone's just like, I'm just sick of doing this role. This is not what I signed up for life. And there needs to be a renegotiation. So even if you don't have your partner's consent for this, it's a really fun exercise to almost like shamanically do it, where you can recognize, okay, my partner always seems to be a disciplinarian. And it's like kind of getting on me. And I'm recognizing that like I'm always the fun parent. Just having the mindset to just subtly be a little bit more strict. Okay, you guys got to clean up your toys now. You got to wash the dishes before you go to bed or whatever.
Yeah.
It opens up the door for the other partner to just naturally pick up the role, because it's like a tug of war, a tension of polarities.
Yeah.
And when we let go a little bit of our side, it allows them to be more fluid. So I think the whole idea of these roles, no matter what they are, is a rigidity, and we need to be able to explore and be fluid between all of them.
Yeah. Love that answer, dude. I think you're so right on there. I was going to say something that was so good. I think it was excellent.
Maybe we need another breath.
Yeah. Let's take a breath, brother.
Well, you were asking me earlier about the dreaming process.
Yes, I would love to talk about that. The dream layer, or what do you talk about? The dreaming process?
Dreaming in
just
general.
Dreaming.
You know, it's just like we think we live in this random universe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so...
Well, we're so stuck in this material paradigm.
So material. But imagine walking into we were talking about a Basquiat painting. Imagine walking into like a Warhol museum or Basquiat or something like that and seeing all of the beautiful art on the wall. And then thinking that it just randomly was there.
Right.
Like someone just like slapped it up on the board. There wasn't an artist. There wasn't a creator. There wasn't a curator. There wasn't a director. There wasn't a human resources, a receptionist or a planner, all these things. But we look outside each day at the most beautiful art gallery you can ever imagine. Our planet. So much beauty.
Yeah.
Unimaginable beauty.
Yeah.
And we don't think that there's purpose behind it, that there's some kind of intelligence that put it together. It's just random.
Well, that's the paradigm that keeps you stuck in, fuck, I got an ear infection. What's wrong with my ear? I got to go to the hospital. Give me something to cure it before anything happens, you know?
Exactly.
It's the same way of thinking.
I mean, if we just took a step back and realized that, imagine trying to put satellites in space the size of the Earth, the moon, and the sun, and try to have them orbit around each other with the precision they do while moving at unimaginable speeds through space, while also orbiting around the center of the galaxy, with the Earth doing a 25,900-year precession of the equinoxes on its axis, creating all these atmospheres and the seasons, and it literally comes back after 25,900 years to the second in the same place. Yeah. And we don't think that's phenomenal, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So when you start to wake up to the fact that there is such intelligence in everything, the song in our head, the memory from childhood that pops up in our mind, the little bird or the little color that flirts with us outside, the little body symptoms, even the challenges that come up, all of it is part of a dreaming process. And for me, when you look deeper into that, not only does it bring a lot more information, it provides a richness to life, that you're part of a larger dream, that you're co-dreaming, and that everything that's happening to you, all the people that come into your life, all the challenges that have, all of them are there to awaken you through an intelligent process. It makes life so much more rich.
Super rich. So for you, for anybody listening who goes, okay, dreaming. Dreaming. I'm interested in that. Because what you're talking about is something like the word dreaming for the person living in the materialist paradigm, who's stuck in like, this is this, and my life is X, and I got to be this, and the earache is the result of some bad bacteria, or take me to the doctor, whatever it might be. That you're dreaming and they go, the thing I do when I go to sleep at night. But that's not, you're talking about something much,
that's part of it,
deeper.
But
than
you don't
that.
have to go to sleep at night to dream.
Right.
So, I mean, your body symptom is part of a dreaming process.
You're talking about The undercurrent.
I'm talking about, imagine like an ice cream cone.
Uh-huh.
And on the top, the ice cream that you can see is like reality that we experience. I have an ear infection. I need to put some hydrogen peroxide in there or go take a medicine or whatever. I went swimming and I got some water in my ear.
Yeah.
Then in the cone, the part that we can't see is this dreaming layer, this symbolic layer, the metaphorical layer, the archetypal layer, the dream figures. And then all the way down at the bottom where the cone comes together to a point, that's the essence level, the pre-verbal energetic level that all of that actually emerges from. The infinite point of potential.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a simple exercise that we could do, I mean, just to show people. But like, if you just think about your ear for a second and then just close your eyes and then just allow yourself to be a little bit foggy or dreamlike, like a no mind kind of just meditative state. And then when you feel ready, open your eyes and scan the room and just see the first object that flirts with you or calls your attention. Just whatever really just jumps out at you in this whole space.
The white wall.
The white wall. And so if you were looking at that white wall and you were looking at it from its perspective, back at yourself, is there a message or a tip that it would give you about your ear or about the process you're going through?
Yeah, totally.
Do you want to share it?
It's really, I mean, it's the message that's been coming, and it's be clear, getting clean, you know, be clear of any...
Be a blank slate.
Yeah, just be a blank
White
slate.
light.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's it. I mean, what did it take, 2 seconds?
Yeah.
All you did is look around the room and recognize that you're in relationship with everything in this room. And there's a deeper intelligence that your body will literally attract an object that will have a meaning for you in a dreamlike way. On one level, on CR and the ice cream cone, it's just a white wall.
Yeah.
On a dream level, it's a blank slate and a clean slate and a white light.
Yeah.
And a deeper meaning of what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that those things are happening all the time. Even with people that we hate. Like if we think about like
so true.
You know, maybe we hate a Trump, let's just say, you know, for example. A lot of people love him, a lot of people hate him, but it doesn't matter to me. But let's just say you're a Trump hater. You could ask yourself, where am I a little bit Trump-like? Where am I a little bit egotistical? Where am I a little bit patriarchal? Where do I not care about my impact on others? And then where do I actually need to be a little bit more Trump-like in my life? Where do I need to just say whatever I want to say without holding back? Really speak my mind and really go for what I want and what I believe in, or something like that. You know, it's just like all of this stuff. We're all dreaming up everything into our life.
Yeah. I love that added note, because a lot of times it's, where am I like that? Or where do I need to clear that place in myself?
Where do I need the energy? Maybe not in the way that they present it.
Right.
And so like, if I was going to, you know, physically show that Trump energy, it'd be like a finger pointing or something. And so if I deepen that and I deepen that underneath there becomes like a dreamlike character that can emerge. And it's like, where do I need this directness in my life? I don't need to be like Trump. Right. But when you go down the cone,
the essence of
there's the consensus reality level, there's Trump. Then underneath in the dream figure, there's this archetype of maybe whatever that is. But then all the way down in the bottom of the cone, there's a pre-verbal, before words energy of assertiveness, directness, of single-pointed focusedness. Right. Of taking what I want, going for it. Yeah. That maybe I need in some particular way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big message. I mean, in anything, like you're saying. To be able to look at it and go, where do I need to be more like this in my life? Where do I need to be more shut off in my life? What do I need to be more open to in my life?
You got to take both sides.
You know?
That's the fun
I
part.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so expansive, dude. How does somebody, I mean, take your story, man. You were a fucking hard charger on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Youngest ever partner to Paul Tudor Jones.
Yeah.
One of the most successful guys in trading the weather, which is another interesting thing. What was the thing that, because I'm sure at some point you were walking around going, tree's a tree, the wall's a wall.
100%.
I got to fucking trade, you know, 100%. I got to make money, etc. Where does the pin drop and the light comes in and we go, oh, there's something deeper here that I'm missing?
Yeah. So, you know, we've talked about this a little bit, but for the listeners, I was 26 and I was on the top of my game financially. You know, I'd already made millions of dollars. I was like, damn. Killing it. But at the same time, I was killing myself. You know, I was 330 pounds. I was, you know, and I'm 5'8", you know, I was a heavy, sick guy, you know, and it's,
in more ways than one.
Yeah. You know, it's really tough being that heavy.
Yeah.
It's really tough, man. It's like,
I was 330 myself. I mean, I'm 6'6".
Yeah, but you're like double the size of me. It's a little bit different being an offensive lineman than being a sedentary trader.
Yeah, totally.
At least your weight actually served you.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, just finding clothes that fit. You know, sweating all the time, totally. Just feeling like crap. You know, it's just messed up. But, you know, for all those out there that are struggling through something, I mean, it was a really necessary part of my life to really be able to understand what somebody in those shoes is going through. You know, it's the wounded healer, the same path that you've gone through as well. You know, having to go through that, now you can offer that to the world. But, you know, for me, I was in this place and, you know, I started to recognize I have more money than I ever dreamed of as 26, but I feel like shit. I have no love in my life. My emotions are a disaster. My mind is a disaster. I have no bigger why. And I was like, what's the point of all this? I'm just going to freaking die at 35 and be medically drugged or something for the rest of my life, the short life. What's the point of all this? So I started getting into exercise, and I exercise like a freaking demon.
A maniac.
The same way I took on everything.
Of course. And
for 2 years, I just was like 2 times a day in the gym before and after Wall Street, working out like crazy, just like total CrossFit mentality, for lack of a better word, just balls to the wall. And I lost 170 pounds, and I was like 160 or something. But now I was completely burnt out. I was totally fried. I just basically transferred the same addiction I had to partying and drugs and private planes and limousines and food to the gym. And I didn't really get anywhere. And so here I am now with tons of money in my bank account, a physically fit body, but I still felt empty. And I was like, there must be something else. And that was in 2009 when I met Paul Chek. And I went out to see him. And
how'd you meet him?
I was working, the person who I was working with was a gentleman named Chaba Lucas. He was somebody who knew Paul. He had a gym in downtown Manhattan.
So you go train with him?
I go train with him twice a day, like a madman, 7 days a week. And we got to a point where it was just like the end of the road. I'm like, I lost all the weight and I fucking
there's still something.
Can't get an erection, just burnt, like stage 4 adrenal fatigue, just a mess. You know?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you should probably talk to Paul. So I started talking to Paul. I realized he had, you know, incredible insight that I'd never heard about in my life.
Right.
I was like, here's a guy with a 5th grade education that taught me more in one Zoom session about how to take care of my body than I learned going to the University of Virginia and, you know, good undergraduate schools and high schools and things like that. I was like, I never learned anything in school about how to eat, how to move, how to sleep, how to play, how to create, how to make love, how to dance.
How to live.
Or that actually who I was not my body, but was a soul driving this car, and don't get so attached with the outer layer because there's actually something deeper inside. None of that, not once in school. Isn't that unbelievable to you?
Yeah, it's
that's
totally
kindergarten in India.
Wow. Yeah.
That's Ashtanga yoga. That's day one. You're not your body. Here's how you take care of it. Here's how you eat right. Here's how you sit in the right posture. Here's how you breathe. Here's how you focus your attention. Here's how you pull your energy in. Here's how you meditate. Here's how you chant. Here's how you do all these things. It's like, okay, now you know the basics. Now let's move on.
Yeah.
We don't learn any of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
None of it.
Yeah, so here I'm meeting Paul, and I'm just like open my eyes to all this stuff. And I went out to meet him in 2009. And I had my first, psychedelic experience with him. And that just blew the doors open. It just blew the doors open. I was like, this 800-pound gorilla just came off my back. And it opened my eyes to this whole another level. And then I took that same drive I had on Wall Street to just studying. I started studying with Paul. I started studying with masters and teachers all over the world. And an interesting thing is I realized that even all of that studying and how all of that was so phenomenal and rich and bettered my life, improved my performance at work, supported my new relationships and my children and all these things, there was still something I was trying to improve with all that. When I was 7 years old, one of the first memories I have, I came home and I gave my mom my first report card in first grade. And she looked at it and I was expecting a good job and a reward. And she said, this is not quite good enough. And it just pissed me off. And I just flipped out. And then I started just going for it in school and going for it on Wall Street and taking a job that had a constant report card. Every second of every day, your worth based on the markets.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, right from the time you open your eyes if you're going to have a good or bad day before you even get out of bed and check your phone. And then I took that same desire and started studying with all these people and try to be the best in the world, the best student with every single person. Only to ultimately realize that this whole thing was me trying to get appreciation and achievement and accomplishment and verification from outside sources. And ultimately I had to find that within my own self. And that kind of solved the puzzle.
Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my gig, brother.
Yeah.
It's my story.
Well, I think that's a story of a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's the crux. That's really the crux.
And unfortunately, that path of getting external approval is insatiable. It's a horizon point. You never hit it.
Yeah.
There's never enough.
Yeah.
There's never enough. It has to come from inside.
Yeah.
The Native American and Native cultures in general, they view success as how many people are you feeding? How much nourishment do you have? How many people are you nourishing? How well are you taking care of your tribe? Not like how many accolades you have on the wall, which is more typical to our environment. And so for me, though, what I've learned is I'm a yes and guy. I want both. I think it's not good to exclude anything. Yeah, go for it, but also find the achievement and find the nourishment from inside, and also take care of yourself and the people that you're around.
I agree, man. I love that. I love that philosophy. Where are you now in the inner nourishment, self-love department? Seem pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a constant journey, isn't it? It's
totally.
a constant journey. I mean,
because there's always something that comes up. There's always and it's about where are we at now.
There's no plan for. Sorry, I was going to say there's no plan for perfection, is there? When you're perfect, nothing moves, nothing happens. And so, I believe that life is an epic, courageous journey of growth and discovery.
Yeah.
My teacher, Jeffrey Armstrong, says that we don't live in a universe. We live in a university. That we're here to learn. We're here to grow, and we're here to experience. And so, some of these old habits do creep up, but the more tools you have, the more time I have with them, I think the more I can love myself. And then ultimately, the more love I can give and share,
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Dude. Totally resonates. I mean, for me, like you, I recognize my whole football career was this Herculean effort to prove my worth to the world. And then coming out of that, the podcast has been that. And the yoga teaching and the events and all of this stuff. Like everything I do, there's some shadow, less and less. There's some shadow of prove it, man. Show me you got what it takes, dude. I'm reading this incredible book, Wild at Heart, right now. John Eldredge. You read it?
No.
It's all about manhood, masculinity. And a big part of it is at some point in every young boy's life. And we get a mother wound and a father wound. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I had a big mother wound. Now I'm realizing there was a father wound too. Mm-hmm. And the father wound is never having the question answered of, hey, Dad, do I have what it takes? Am I a man? Mm-hmm. And usually, it's no fault of any of the fathers out there. This is just a big recurring theme for all of us that literally drives us in everything we do for most of our lives until we get to a point where we recognize it. And then for me, I found, okay, so that's there and that's totally insatiable and I'm never going to, if I live my life in accordance with proving my worth through what I'm doing, there's always going to be a hole to fill, you know? So the shift for me has been, how can I, or let me rephrase, let me lean into what fills me up or what creates a sense of wholeness in joy and purpose and being of service, and let me lean into that.
Yeah.
Rather than doing all this stuff just to prove something out, you know? And I would imagine you're very much like tuned into that. Like your trip to Alaska, for instance, like you're doing that because you feel really called. And I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think one of the things about this, before we get there, about this thing about, am I a man? Am I man enough for you, Dad? Is that we have a very distorted image of what a man really even is. Yeah. What is that image of the man that we're even trying to be? Yeah. And does our dad even know what that even means? Probably not.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so a lot of this comes back to, I think, a more primal component of, we don't have an image of the divine masculine and the divine feminine that happen in some of the cultures of the East. That there's no image of the divine. That it's not a man and a woman. It's a divine masculine energy and a divine feminine coming together. A godlike tantric experience. That you're in relationship with something that is transcendent from this plane. And that all of these relationships are a way to connect to the divine itself through your pet, through your lover, through your child, through your best friend, and so forth.
Through your work.
Through anything, really.
Yeah, through it all.
Being in service.
1,000%.
So, yeah, that's just a big thing, I think, is that we have some of these missing vitamins from early on. And one of them is not knowing that we are a soul, that we identify so much with our skin color and our size of our body and our hair color and our looks. But there's so much more deeper than that. Yeah. We don't have a good image of the divine masculine and feminine. And you can see how that's playing out right now with gender identity and, role confusion and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. And we have another big problem too, is we don't believe in more than one lifetime, which puts us in a really precarious situation that we only have one shot to get this right. And if we don't, we go to eternal hell. That doesn't seem fair to me. Yeah. No matter what cards we're given. Yeah. No matter what situations are, we're just like, we're walking this tightrope of like making a mistake. And then we have one. Imagine if you gave like a child something and then they broke it and you're like, okay, you're going in your room for forever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Totally.
You know, it's just silly. It's just
it
silly.
is. That's such an
and
interesting
it creates so much
one.
anxiety because we feel like we have to get it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get it right, and then there's only one shot, so we must just go for everything and not even enjoy the moment and just take and extract everything from the earth that we can.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I mean, it's so true, man. And isn't that such an interesting thing? Because from a superficial mainstream society perspective, you would think that would aid people in their journey to accomplishing more or living a better life. Mm-hmm. But it does exactly what you said. It creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of resistance. It shuts people down. It becomes this burden like, oh, fuck, I better get it all right this time. I better be perfect now. Yeah. You know? And when you let go of that and you go, hey, maybe I've got thousands of lifetimes to perfect this, you actually settle into a state of being that's more postured towards creating peace and what I would call, if we can get anywhere close to perfection in our life, you get closer to it by releasing yourself from that anxiety.
Yeah, I agree. You know, for me, what I've found is that it's a little bit of a paradox in that we have to live like
there's no tomorrow.
Any moment we could get hit by an 18-wheeler.
Yes.
And at the same time recognize that we have infinite lifetimes. How to straddle both of those at the same time, where we just recognize that, you know, so many people are working till a point where, I'm going to work till I'm 65 and then collect my pension. Well, you know, the average lifespan for somebody like you is 71. You know what I mean? So what are you really doing? Yeah. What are you really working for? And do you look around the people that are around retirement age? Do they look happy? Do they look healthy? And so, you know, we have to have this mentality of living for the moment.
Right.
And asking yourself, you know, in Carlos Castaneda's work, The Teachings of Don Juan, the Yaqui Indian, he says, use your death as your spiritual advisor. That imagine your death is standing behind your left shoulder. And recognize that it could tap you at any moment. And when you're unsure about a decision, turn to your death and ask him, her, I don't know, if I had one life to live, would I still do this decision that I'm doing now? I mean, that puts a lot of things in perspective. So living like you have 1 week to live, and at the same time, paradoxically living like you have infinite numbers of lifetimes.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, imagine if you're surfing and you're sitting out there in the ocean and, you know, you're waiting for a wave and nothing's coming. And then you look over there across the way and you see a bunch of waves. So you just, you know, you're swimming over there, you're chasing after it, and you get over there, there's no waves, and you look back and there's waves where you were. There's something about that peacefulness of resting in that eternalness that allows you to be patient enough to see and track and stalk that waves that is coming right to you, sitting in that stillness and appreciating it, not panicking, not chasing after something, to allow you then to see the wave coming through.
Even trust and have faith, you know, it's such a big thing. Like if you trust and have faith that there's some greater intelligence so far beyond your capacity of anything that's guiding the ship, it really allows you this opportunity to let go of the worry, let go of the anxiety, let go of I got to be over there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm here and this is the all-powerful moment right here, right now. Let me anchor into this.
Yeah.
Because the wave is coming, you know?
Totally. You know, there's this, you see, in a lot of the Western religions, we have this idea of more like blind faith. Just believe. Right. Just believe. But something that yoga and psychedelics do well is they give you a direct experience where you just know.
Yeah.
You go from, like, I think did you put up that Carl Jung thing?
Yes, exactly.
He went, you know, what did he say? I used to believe in God, and now I know there's a God.
Yeah.
In Sanskrit, they call that, there's a word called it shraddha, which is like direct knowing in my bones.
Yeah.
I've chanted, I've postured, I've meditated, I've had experiences to really know and not have blind faith because somebody told me or I read it in a book.
Yes.
And I think that's a big difference.
That's a powerful difference. Yeah. I love that. I love that clip of him.
Yeah.
The moment I saw it, I was like, oh, I got to put this up. Because you're almost expecting, I think the journalist was almost expecting him to say, no, I don't believe in God anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But instead he was like, it's a hard question to answer because I know God exists, you know? That's like, and exactly what you said. Yoga, psychedelics, that's really the power. Meditation even. It's the power of these practices that gives you that direct experience of the divine.
Yeah.
And when you know that, fuck, man, your world, your life transforms when you know. Because you're not walking around. Have you ever read the book, The Secret History of the World?
No.
Really incredible book.
You're giving me a lot of great reading lists today.
Same, you too, man. And, you know, I mean, but in that book, he wrote 2 books. Forgetting the guy's name right now. One of my favorite books of all time, Secret History of the World. He also wrote The Sacred History of the World.
Okay.
2 big books. Secret History of the World is really talking about the evolution of consciousness through the lens of the secret mystery schools.
Okay.
Otherwise known in, you know, mainstream culture as perhaps the occult societies like the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, all of those groups. And which many people believe to be like dark forces and communing with the devil and all of this stuff, which is really actually just a amalgamation of all the ancient wisdom that dates far back to ancient Egypt and beyond, all of that stuff. And they've taken all of these principles of how the universe functions and they're putting them to use. The Illuminati was a manipulation of all of this stuff. That was actually a real thing. Like, there was a professor in Belgium who took all the teachings from the Rosicrucians and the Golden Dawn and manipulated it to control people, and that's what he created the Illuminati. So that is a thing. But what he's talking about in the book, he does this really brilliant job of articulating the evolution of consciousness and how, paraphrasing, when people in ancient Greece or ancient Egypt were writing these stories about communing with gods and speaking to spirits and connecting with divine entities, that wasn't just parable. That wasn't analogy or myth. They were actually, that was their experience of life, like talking to the trees, talking to the animals, like communing with these beings that we perceive as being non-lingual or don't communicate that way. Right. But then through the evolution of consciousness, like this table became this real thing, you know, and only the things that we can see, touch, taste, feel, smell, that's what's real. It's
just a white wall.
Right. It's just a white wall, dude. There's nothing mystical or interesting about it. Right. But what's really interesting is like he talks about this evolution of how our consciousness basically concretized, became more solidified and less open to the ethereal realms, which has led us to our current state of being where we're in the ear infection. That's an ear infection. You're sick. That's what's going on. Get antibiotics, go to the doctor, etc. Rather than there's an actual fucking message here going on. I saw another post weirdly, because, you know, the algorithms are listening to everything we say. But I saw this incredible post. It was Jim Carrey. And he said, the ear is your womb. Anything that comes into it will be birthed in some time. And it was like an ear. And then next to it was like a little drawing of an ear with a little baby, a little fetus inside of it. Yeah. And I thought, oh, how perfect. Because that's exactly what I'm experiencing here. This is the message that I'm receiving from this. But going back to having to do with what you were talking about, man, of opening your perspective, opening your through faith, through knowing God, that we get to access these deeper realms of information, these deeper lessons that are happening all the time in our lives. It's rather than that person's an asshole going, oh, wow, this situation that's going on with my friend, my loved one, my partner, whoever it is. Oh, there's so much here for me to learn from, to expand and grow my soul, basically, you know?
Totally.
And shifting that's such a fucking massive shift in your life when you can do that, when you make that leap into that. And I think having faith and trust and knowing that there's God and there's something, whatever you want to call it, the universe, spirit, whatever it is, you know, but just having that knowing that there's something far beyond your ability to perceive that's guiding the fucking journey.
You know, just waking up each day with a child's like mind.
Yeah.
Having a curiosity. You know, we think that the world is 99% known and 1% unknown. But the reality is that it's 99% unknown.
Totally.
What is we can see 1% of light.
Totally.
We can hear probably 1% or less of sound. We can't even hear like a dog whistle.
Yeah.
But our dog can hear it.
Yeah.
You know, that we can have such a small perception of smell and probably color and all sorts of things. And when you recognize that there's so much more invisible, potent energy, astrology, planets, seasons, information, animals, all these things that are constantly moving around us and part of us. You know, you were talking about the deer dance that I did in Alaska. You know, I went to Alaska and I spent a couple days building a sweat lodge, which is a profound experience. You know, I've been in sweat lodges before, but actually
Amazing.
Cutting down the trees and, you know, before you even do that, praying and singing songs and drumming and playing flute and, you know, making offerings and then cutting down the limbs of these alder trees that can then be used and intentionally staking off places and walking around the circle, dropping cornmeal and tobacco and singing and praying. And I mean, it was a 2-day process of ceremony to go in this lodge.
Unbelievable, dude.
But then we move into the third day where I've agreed to do 7 years of this deer ritual where you dress up in regalia like deer horns and masks and all this clothing and go into an experience where you dance all day to become the animal. And the whole idea is that, you know, we think it's the zodiac, but it's really the zodiac. All of those signs of the zodiac are all animals. Leo the lion, Virgo the ram, whatever. Those are literally the animals that we're riding around on. Right? We're riding on these animals. These
Wait
totems.
a minute. The Libras, the scales.
Right?
Which I'm a Libra. I feel like I'm always riding around on the scales.
Maybe you're riding around on a balance beam.
Yeah. No, but I love that, dude.
Yeah, we're riding around on these animals. And so, you know, there's this whole, that's just getting back to this whole dreamlike nature of things. But, you know,
was the dance the medicine? Was there any like?
No, there was medicine too.
Okay.
Yeah. Wachuma.
Oh, okay.
Wachuma, which is a native cactus that you use traditionally in those ceremonies.
Amazing.
Which actually wasn't quite that strong.
Right.
You have to take a lot of it to get that altered, but it was just enough to open up the gates a little bit.
So the medicine truly is
the medicine is
assuming the spirit of this animal,
losing yourself in the dance,
right?
Dancing like nobody's watching, moving around, clawing on the ground like you just don't give a shit,
right? Until
Until you break through and you literally become almost deer-like, and then just like kung fu masters would watch tigers until they have crouching tiger, or they watch toads or frogs until they can leap like them, and they create kung fu programs off of watching animals. We have so much that we can learn from all the medicine in these animals and recognizing that on some level that's a part of us, and we can harness that ability in this dreamlike nature that we've been talking about. Underneath the consensus reality of Eben, there might be a deer and a eagle and an elk and a turtle and whatever.
And
what
came through for you
Oh,
at the end of it? What was the big message? Maybe you're still sort of processing.
Well, you know, the big one for me is, like I was mentioning you earlier, is being that stag.
Mm.
You know, there's a great story about the stag deer. The stag deer is smelling this scent, this kind of like musk that's coming, but doesn't know where it's coming from. It's this intoxicating, heavenly scent.
Mm.
And it spends its whole life looking everywhere for the scent, and it can't find the source. Up high, mountaintops, down low. And in a very old age, it stumbles down the hill, pierces its own belly with its horns, and while it's lying there taking its last breath, realizes that the scent was emerging from its own stomach the whole time.
Of course, dude.
And so, like, it's really it. It's this idea that I find myself in these experiences recognizing that I'm still searching for more. And if I just look around, if I look at my beautiful family, if I look at my home, if I look at my course that I've created and the things that I've accomplished, I've already made it.
So good.
And
dude.
it's just about really appreciating that. And so the stag itself is one who's already worked through its own crap. And it doesn't need to, oh, look at me, be noticed. It could just stand there and hold space for others to go through their work in an act of service. And for me, it's really stepping into that. And like the other thing about the deer is, you know, I always had this idea of deers as being kind of stupid, like deer in headlights. You know, you see them on the street and you're like, what are you doing? Get out of the road. You know, it's like, especially where I live, there's tons of deer. But they have this gaze that emerged to me, this looking deeply, this stillness, this looking deeply right into you. So many times when I find myself talking to people or people talking to me, I will avert my eyes or like, I don't look right into them. You know, that deep namaste, I see you for who you are.
Yeah.
And that's something that I learned in there as well. And, you know, there's just also something about getting down on the ground and earthing and smacking the ground and getting your hands in the dirt.
Yeah.
We're so much living up in our head.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I just
keep it clean. I need to wash my hands. Don't put my feet in the dirt.
Touch the earth and everything.
Yeah.
You know, I'm about to have my 4th kid this year.
Wow, dude.
And there was something about coming through of you're going to need 4 legs this year for your 4 kids. Stay grounded. Stay close to the earth.
I love that.
Yeah.
What a powerful message, dude.
Yeah.
I was going to say it definitely feels like that's where you're at in your life for that message to come through, being the stag.
Yeah.
You know, just with everything you're doing and moving into. Like I told you earlier, I mean, Jared would tell me about you all the time. And I'd be like, dude, where the fuck is Jason? Like, he needs to be teaching us classes from all the masters that he's studied with, you know?
Well, I think
here you are.
Yeah. I mean, it was just the right timing. You know?
Yeah, man.
You know, the thing about that consciousness book you read is the history of Sacred History of the World or History of the World. Dr. Kareem from Biogeometry shows a very simple but interesting graph. He says that the older ancient man or human was mostly right brain dominant. We were very much in our right brain. And so we were completely one with nature. We were talking to the spirits. We're talking to nature. We're interacting with our environment.
Exactly.
We understood this dreamlike nature. And then as we evolved, like imagine going into the Industrial Revolution, we moved more and more into our left brain.
Yeah.
Where now we're completely left brain dominant.
Yes.
Logical, linear, consensus, reality, Newtonian physics, etc. You know?
That's fascinating. He talks about that.
And now the future human needs to move back halfway.
Right.
Split the left and the right. That's why in this age of artificial intelligence, we need to get back to the body. We need to be able to recognize that we have to input into the system coming from a place of the deepest wisdom. You know, the human body has billions of years of evolution in it.
Right.
AI has maybe 5-10 years of market research. This body is market tested.
Yeah.
It is refined. It is a fine wine, and then some. It's fermented wine. You know, it's like there has been years and years and thousands of generations and evolution of refining this body and the dreaming system and the absolute amazing intelligence of our heart. And unless we get back to this, we won't know how to use that technology purposefully, because The same technology that can clean water or cure cancer can make an atomic bomb. And, if you look something up on AI, first of all, there's not that much information on the internet these days with how much is censored. So you're getting a one-sided biased view.
Yeah.
And in some ways, there's as much information for something as there is against. And so how do you make a decision? Ultimately, you have to get back into what's congruent with you, where we started this whole thing. Am I congruent with this? Is my heart aligned with this? Is my body aligned with this? Is my dreaming process aligned with this? And then you can use those technologies effectively, which I think is absolutely essential to survive and thrive in the coming years.
I think you hit it on the head, my bro. Hit it on the head. How long have you been going?
We're at 122.
Oh, beautiful, man. Well, I'd love for you to share with everyone what you got going right now.
Yeah.
Trip you're on, your program.
Yeah.
And then, we'll cap it off with what we're doing together.
Yeah. Yeah, just a real quick, sometimes it can take a while to get into it. But, basically we talked about the Wall Street story. Something interesting about that I don't know if I told you about that before, but this might be interesting to everybody who's trying to find the real passion out there is before I had this dream to be a Wall Streeter, I had a love of drumming and magic in my life. And so on one hand, I had the identity, the consensus reality, the ice cream of the drummer and the magician. But underneath the drumming or the drummer was something like rhythm in the dreamland. And underneath the magician was something like a sense of wonder or aha. And then underneath that, there was an essence level of like a heartbeat pulsing through me or spontaneity that is like pre-verbal. And then I went on to be this trader. And when I left trading and I left the role, probably very similar to when you left the NFL, there was this huge death of that identity where I'm like, who am I?
Yeah.
What is my role here? I used to be this really important person. I was in tons of meetings and emails, and I was managing $1 billion, and I was having huge swings, and I had people working for me and answering to me, and I had a lot of responsibility, bunch of computer screens. All of a sudden, it's like fade to black. And I was like, shit, who the hell am I?
Yeah.
And I'm like, did I lose all of this? Did I just give up all of these skills? And like, what am I doing? But I realized that underneath the trader, the role, the identity of the trader, what made me good at that was my ability to tap into the rhythm of the markets. And as I traded weather, I was attracted to something where I could get into rhythm and the ritual of nature and the weather patterns themselves and feel the beat of the weather. In the same way, when I would create profits out of thin air, it would seem like I was pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It was like, it gave me that same sense of wonder. And now as a coach and as a creator of this course, The Abundance Archetype, which I'm about to tell you about, what really drives me is helping people create rhythm and ritual in their life. And when I see them deepen into the deepest parts of themselves, I get that same sense of magic and wonder. And so for everybody out there, think about like, what was the first thing you loved to do before anyone told you what to do?
Right.
And think about what was it about that you truly loved? What was the essence of it that really got you? And see how you can incorporate that into your life and work now. And so on that thread, when I left Wall Street, I was feeling a little bit like, I don't know what to do. And I had explored for the previous 12 years before that or more, all of these kind of self-help and human optimization, personal development skill sets. And I decided to explore those more deeply. So I jumped into 1 million certifications. This is during the COVID time. So everything's now online and I have access to teachers around the world. And I kept studying my ass off and kept going and going and going. And I was like, I don't even want to be that trader guy anymore. I don't like him. He's crazy. He just cares about money.
Yeah.
He's nuts. He just watches the screens all day, I don't want to, for you, it's like, I don't even want to think about that NFL guy anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, forget about him. He's nuts. And I just wanted to be this coach and this therapist and the facilitator and all these kinds of healing things, only to find that all the roads led back also to my Wall Street career. I couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
And I recognized that my truest gift, the place where I could follow what I love to do and be of deepest service and meet the deepest needs of the world, was combining all of my skills and talents. It was really my own inner deep democracy. And so I created this course called The Abundance Archetype that takes together all of my years on Wall Street to help people develop a process of how to look at investing or how to look at their business, and also to make themselves the best investment, and how to develop a process to be competitive and to be successful. And also this whole concept of marrying the wealth piece with the well-being. Because just like there's been this divorce of the world and purposefulness and science and religion, science will tell you that a hummingbird will flap its wings 70 times a second. But who can answer the question of who created or what created the hummingbird? I want to know what created that beautiful being that can do that.
Yeah.
Not how many times, if I dissected it in a lab, how many organs it has or something like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I saw this huge divorce where all these people on Wall Street had money and had no spirit and no health. And all these people in the self-help world have the spiritual connection, have the relationships, but they don't have any money. And, I realized that, through self-mastery and taking all of the things I learned from all of these journeys and putting them into an 8-step process for developing yourself, and then also applying that to your business, then that's what I'm calling abundance, which is essentially knowing yourself, knowing who you truly are, knowing that there's only ever one of you ever on this planet with your fingerprints. You are the one snowflake, that there will never be another one. And to the degree that you can master yourself and what you really love to do, you become indispensable to the world and ultimately successful. And this marriage of wealth and well-being is what I'm calling abundance, not one or the other.
Love that, dude.
And so that's the high level.
It's fucking dope, man. You're a master of that. You're a master. Just talking to you for hanging out for the last, 2.5 hours, whatever it's been.
I've really enjoyed it, man.
Me too, dude.
And I'm so excited about our little thing coming up. You want
Me
to talk
too,
about that
man.
a little bit?
Yes, please. Well, we're creating a program that, should we say the title or save the title? We'll save it.
I don't know if maybe we save that.
But really looking at creating a program for me to, I think, something that I really connect with, and I'm connecting with it actually even more, because your brother keeps asking me if I've watched this documentary on Netflix, the quarterback documentary, and I haven't.
I like that one.
And I'm realizing I haven't watched it because there's a part of me that's still like, I don't care about football. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm not interested in it. And yet I recognize there's also this light streaming in that's going, this is a big pathway for you to go back into,
as you're passing the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. But taking this process of self-realization and putting it into a program, being the best possible athlete you can be, being the best possible human being you can be, through all of the practices I wish I had when I was a pro football player. All of
the medicine that would have kept you healthy and made you more sustainable. Basically, all of the hard lessons that you learned along the way through blood, sweat, and tears.
Exactly.
And surgeries and all that, you've now have a level of mastery and wisdom that you're able to offer to people to really be a high-performing athlete without ruining their relationships, their spiritual connection, their health, their longevity, from student athlete to collegiate athlete to professional. It's going to be an absolutely incredible act of service. In the same way, it's the marriage of the things in my course is that I think we think like being an athlete means that you have to just bury yourself and you can't be, into certain aspects of well-being, just like in the wealth component. But what you're offering is really an opportunity to individuation and self-realization through peak performance.
Yes.
It's quite badass.
Yeah, I'm fucking stoked about it, man. Yeah. And I greatly appreciate you supporting this and being a producer of it. So I'm fucking stoked, man. I can't wait. Let's go, bro. Where are you off to next? I know you got some. Yeah. Are you going to see Shervine, or did that work out?
Well, no, I'm going down to Paul's.
You're going to see Paul.
I'm going to Paul's for his birthday. And after his birthday, where Shervine's going to be at his birthday.
Oh, okay.
And a couple other people, Kyle Kingsbury, and
it's a good group.
It's a good group. It's a good group of us for his birthday. I'm excited to spend birthday with my buddy. And then I'm going to do 4 days of private work with Paul, which I've been doing for the last 15 years, which is just really, really sweet medicine for us. We just spend time together, talk, share. You know, he's one of the only people in the world that I can connect with on that deeply intimate level, that we've gone through a lot together through divorces and highs and lows and journeys, and, you know, and so we get together, we share. We eat, we sweat, we work out, we do medicine, we do lots of inner work and healing, we play, we dance, we make art, we stack rocks, and we just have a good time. And so I'm super excited about that. I miss my family a lot, actually. It's really hard to be away. I'm realizing, man, I just miss my kids, you know. It's so hard, but you know, it's also really important, you know, and this being away is so deeply important to the return.
Yeah.
And it's this big thing that I found actually in my work life too, actually. That so many times when you're like working on something and you're trying to figure something out, that the real geniuses understand the interplay between work and rest, work and play.
Yeah.
You work, and then you have to give the process over to your right brain, your dreaming process, to inspire a new way of looking at it, and in a slightly altered state, maybe even to inspire some kind of new outlook. And that's exactly how I created my course. I was like ripping up drafts after drafts. I couldn't figure out what I was going to do. I went on this hunting trip.
Right.
And I just sat under a pecan tree, and all of a sudden the whole map came in by paradoxically letting go of the work. And so, yeah, I think being away from work is so important then for coming back and being re-inspired. But I do miss my kids.
Yeah, I understand that one big time.
Yeah.
And it's really true. I mean, we took a family vacation in New Hampshire in July, and it was a true vacation, and it was a complete reset. I came back so inspired and enlivened and ready to fucking rock and roll, dude. So that's one that I've been learning as well.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not all about just fucking grinding and putting your head down and working and pushing through. It's like that has its time and its place. But you also really need to take time to let the universe, let God in. Create that space for the inspiration to fall in.
We all know these moments come, like when we're not working, like when we're in the shower or driving down on the street or on a trip. It's like only in these moments of relaxation can we open up to something new, where we could be inspired to look at something differently. And a lot of the best companies out there know this. They devise games and breaks and offsites and things, like move seats around, have people go eat somewhere. To change it up.
Yeah.
And when you change things up and you relax, all of a sudden, you know, play ping pong in the office.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's not wasting time. It's actually creating.
Totally. Love that. Dude, so much good in here.
Yeah. I got to have you out to my house too in New York. Next time. I know when you go visit your family out there.
Let's do that.
Organize that.
We'd love to do that.
Love to have you there.
That'd be awesome. We'll do it, bro.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you, man. Loved it.
Loved it too.
Everybody check him out. Jason Pickard, the master, the wizard. Check out the abundance archetype. A lot of good stuff coming from this dude.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Lots of love. Give Paul a hug for me.
Always.
And I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.